I think someone else is living my life. I really don't know where else I can try to explain this. I feel like I'm going crazy, or maybe I'm losing my mind, or even memory. But just not even dementia runs in my family. Because just what other explanation is there? I have been having multiple instances where people tell me they talk to me when I just can't even remember that happening. At first, my husband and I thought I was just forgetting little things, because I started with one of the other moms in the neighborhood and asked me why I didn't bring any cups and napkins for the monthly get-together our neighbors have. I told her I didn't know I was supposed to bring cups, just that my husband was told to bring sodas, and we did. She said that we had seen each other at the grocery store, and she mentioned to me. But I honestly didn't remember that conversation at all. My husband and I sheepishly apologized when we figured I just didn't listen well enough, and it was my own fault. Not a big deal. People forget things. Then at work, I'm a teacher at our town. It's just a middle school. One of my students asked me why there weren't any pizzas when the class arrived for fourth period. I thought he was just being silly, so I said because lunch isn't until sixth period. But the whole class was starting to get antsy when I just continued with the lesson. I finally asked why no one was paying attention, and another student of mine saying they were waiting for pizza. I asked, what pizza? The class told me that on Monday I had promised a pizza party for them on Friday if they had turned in all their notebooks, which they did. Now, this just really confused me, because that Monday I had missed fourth and fifth period due to a mess in the teacher's lounge. Coffee was spilled and I had to quickly rush home to clean up and change, which my principal allowed. And my boss told me he'd send a substitute to cover for me for the moment. I was never in my class in that fourth period, so how did all my students remember that I promised a party? I told the kids that some might have said it, and not me, but I wasn't aware. This really upset them all. But what else could I do? I never said that, but all my students swore I was in the class that day, and I had in fact promised. More situations like this just kept happening, but I really didn't take it too serious until it started getting weirder and more personal. It didn't stop at conversations. I was never part of that. One night, my husband was grumbling about cold water in the shower and hair in the drain, so I asked him why he showered in cold water. This really seemed to annoy him. Like it was a choice. You spent like an hour in the shower and you didn't pull your hair from the drain when you got out. He snapped at me. What are you talking about? I haven't even showered yet. I said because I really hadn't. I was going to shower in the morning. Well, the hair drain was yours. And I heard the water running for an hour when I passed by the restroom, and I know it wasn't Charlie. Of course it wasn't Charlie. I was downstairs with him this whole afternoon. Charlie, he's 5 months, is our only son. He didn't really say anything else, but I can tell he wasn't satisfied with my answer. In hindsight, this should have been a bigger red flag to me about this whole situation. But I chalked it up to my husband just being a little distracted. Another time, I woke up on Saturday and went to the kitchen to make my morning coffee, but there was already a pot that had been made. My husband doesn't drink coffee, and obviously my 5-year-old didn't make it. But I had made it last night. I forgot to throw in the leftovers, right? But the coffee was still hot. It made me feel very concerned, but I stamped down any alarms going off in my head and just made toast. Now I make toast in a specific way, where I make 3 pieces of butter and 1 smear of peanut butter, with one of strawberry jam and one all Nutella, all on the side of the plate so I could dip my toast. I know it's not practical, but I like it this way. And my husband has always found this a bit strange. Whenever I asked him to make the toast, he puts the condiments on the bread, which doesn't really bother me. Well, I took my toast upstairs to my room so I could watch the morning news in my bedroom, and there was a plate, a half-eaten plate, on my nightstand. I felt sick seeing it. I knew for a fact my husband didn't make it, or nor did he make coffee, because he was still sleeping. I had to be lucid memory, but it just terrified me. I started writing down my daily activities so I could keep better track of what's going on. And aside from a few people claiming to have a conversation with me, I wasn't able to remember. Things seemed to get better until 2 weeks ago. My husband got back from work and I was on the couch watching TV. You guys back already? Back from what? I asked. When I got home, I fed Charlie to play with him for a bit until he fell asleep. I left his room and went to the restroom and went to the living room to watch TV. The park. You told me last night you were taking Charlie to a park. I sighed, frustrated that my memory kept slipping. I must have had promised to take Charlie and just forgotten. No, we didn't go to the park. He's sleeping right now. My husband went to check on Charlie, but he immediately came back. Where is he sleeping? His room. No, Charlie isn't in there. My blood turned cold. I never heard him get up. And I knew for a fact I had put him to sleep in there an hour ago. We both started screaming his name and searching the entire house for him, but we couldn't find him. I started crying as I looked for him because we had just never had a situation before where we lost our son. My husband in a panic voice said that maybe Charlie had gone to the park without me. The park was right next to our neighborhood, only a 10-minute walk, so it wasn't possible. We took off running towards the park. I cried harder when I saw Charlie waiting for his turn on the slide. My husband grabbed him and started expecting him for any harm, asking him why he left the house by himself. I didn't. Mommy brought me. There Mommy is, he said innocently, waving at me with a small smile. I shook my head. No, baby, I put you down for a nap. You came by yourself. I know I was gonna sleep, but you came back from going to pee and we walked. Charlie explained this like it was obvious, like I should have known. A neighbor of mine must have overheard and joined the conversation with, yeah, I saw you guys walking over here and I sat there with my girls over too. We were chatting on the bench a little ago. What? I breathed, my mind racing. I hadn't been to the park all day, yet my own son was claiming we walked over together. This was really the first time the thought that there was someone else pretending to be me. Someone acting in my place, in my town, and now my job came to mind. If that wasn't scary enough, that means whoever it was in my house with my son, she had taken my son. Either I was actually losing my mind or someone else was living me. Later that night, I told my husband about the thoughts after we had calmed down over the park incident, and he didn't know what to think. He mentioned in a quiet voice that some of his coworkers said they had thought they had seen me at a bar close to where they worked. It was the bar where the company would go to after work to just unwind. He said that he saw me drinking and having a good time, even getting a little flirty with some of the patrons there. He told me he knew it wasn't me. I had a drinking problem in my 20s, I've been sober and he figured it. It was just someone with a similar face. I cried. I just couldn't help it. This wasn't normal. It wasn't like people around my town were seeing someone who looked very similar to me. There was just someone pretending to be me. What do you want? I remember gasping between my sobs. My husband just held me, but I don't think he could understand what it felt like. The next day, he installed cameras in and outside the house. I was obsessed with the second I had access to the footage. I stayed in my room for 3 days, missing work just to stare down the grainy footage for a glimpse of the other person. I didn't see much except my husband and my son continuing life as normally. So on day 4, I finally showered and got ready for work. I kissed my husband goodbye and went to work. Since I've been gone without even calling in, I had a lot of work to catch up on once the students went home, so I didn't finish it till about 6:30. Usually I get home at 4 p.m. When did I get home? Charlie was watching TV and having a snack. Hey buddy, where's your daddy? I asked as I set my stuff down. Upstairs, he said, his eyes still glued to the TV. I locked the door and went up to my room, wondering why my husband left Charlie alone. He was fine, but still, he was only 5 and I didn't like him being left alone all by himself for too long. When I opened the door, my husband was naked on the bed, his eyes closed and a blissful smile on his face. I quickly closed the door behind me and walked up to him. What's with the birthday suit stud? I joked lightly, poking him on his stomach. His skin felt flush. Sleepily, he opened his eyes to smile at me. Don't act cold, babe. Why'd you get all dressed? Are we going somewhere? I blinked. Huh? I didn't just get dressed, I just got home. At this, my husband sat up a bit straighter, his eyes filtering me from the closed restroom door. No, you're joking, right? Babe, you've been here since 4. The pit in my stomach was growing and growing faster. I shook my head slowly, my breathing becoming a bit more jagged. I started feeling lightheaded. My husband was getting pale. Babe, I got home and you were here. You pushed Charlie to watch some cartoons and we started fooling around. And you said you were sorry for being paranoid lately. He sounded like he was begging me to confirm with his words, but I couldn't. We both looked to the restroom door. After sex, I always wanted to freshen up first in our restroom. She was in there. I stumbled back and my hand reaching out for my husband. And he held it. The tight feeling in my chest started to burn. My whole body felt overstimulated and I couldn't breathe. How long ago did she go in there? I whispered. 15 minutes. Finally, on shaky feet, my husband stood and urged me to hand the bat under her bed. He inched towards the door, his shaking breathing the only sound in the room I could barely hear. It was over my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. He swung the door open and I screamed. It was empty. I panted heavily, my blood feeling like acid inside of me. Everything hurt when we looked around inside. There was some water on the counter like she had been washing her face. The hand towel was damp and the lotion bottle was open. I felt cold on my back and I was turned to see our restroom window open. It was a small one. Usually only open when one of us needed to let some air out. And we went to number 2. She would have shimmied her way out if she was my exact double. It would have been a tight squeeze. Sure enough, when my husband got closer to close the window and lock it, he said the paneling felt loose, like she had busted it in her escape. I held my husband when he cried. I couldn't imagine how violent he felt. This was so much to take. We checked the cameras in the night, Charlie sleeping between us on our bed. I didn't feel safe about him in our sight. The footage was horrible. I saw myself come to the door, but it obviously wasn't me. She put me over. She put her fucking hands on my son. I had to clap a hand over my mouth to keep myself quiet, to avoid Charlie waking up. She had held him in the living room on her hip and kissed her sweet little face. Even writing this now, and my hands are shaking thinking about this imposter in my house with my baby. We quickly fast forward to the footage of her in bed with my husband. He cried a bit more watching it, and I just felt sick. She was just like you. She just felt like you. I couldn't tell the difference, he whispered in a broken voice. There was no camera in the bathroom. I wish I could say something. I saw something in the footage that showed me that this woman wasn't a CreepyPasta, but the fact is there wasn't. She moved with my exact same mannerism. She comforted my son exactly how I did. She looked exactly like me, clearly down to my exact body and voice, and my husband couldn't tell a difference. She had been watching me for a long time and just became able to mimic me to a T. This week I haven't left the house. My husband goes to work and tells me how safe he feels. He can leave the house without looking over his shoulder. We tried filing a police report with no evidence. That just didn't do much. They took the footage of our statements and we had on her back. I wouldn't be surprised if they think it's a joke since the woman looked exactly like me. My husband was at work and I was on the couch downstairs typing up a lesson plan for my substitute. I can't go back to work. I can't do anything without that other woman. I don't know what she was gonna do. She could do anything sinister. Now that she knows, I know for sure now. Charlie came running down the stairs, a big smile on his face. I smiled back at him. He immediately froze, his joy sliding right off his expression, replacing it with confusion. He looked at me with these big, glossy green eyes before he squinted suspiciously. How did you beat me? What do you mean, baby? I asked, tilting my head to his side. We're playing upstairs. You told me I can get a juice. How did you beat me here? I had to fight the bile that rose in my throat. It felt like gravity had just stopped working and everything was weighing down on my shoulders. I realized I was shaking. Charlie, baby, come here. Sit with mommy. I heard myself say. My voice was rough in my mouth, like sandpaper. I didn't even feel Charlie as he bonded over me. My body was numbed. I typed this all out so fast, so ignored any spelling mistakes. I wanted to flee, to call 911, but my purse is upstairs. My keys are inside. My phone is charging too. I'm begging you guys for help. Please, I don't know what to do. And I can hear her now. She's calling for Charlie, asking him to come back upstairs. She sounds just like me. I'm scared so shitless right now. I'm still shaking like a fucking chihuahua. I hear her footsteps out there. She's definitely in the house. Please. Fucking help us. Hello guys, I am back again. I wanted to say that a little update in the video schedule. I want to post like two times every day during the Monday to Friday. And on Saturday there's gonna be like one video up. Like depending how it just changes depending how long the video is, because it takes quite more time to edit. and a lot more stories. And I really do hope you guys do enjoy these. I'm really trying my best to, like, since I don't exactly have the equipment, I'll try to, like, read more and just, drink a lot more water so my voice is more clear for you guys. So, hope you guys do enjoy. Bye.